everyone, welcome to My Sister's Bookish Q&A, a segment of My Sister's TBR where we interview anyone and everyone in the bookish community.
We're here to bridge the gap between reader and writer. I'm your co-host, Stacy.
And I'm your co-host, Rebecca. Last month, we had the pleasure of interviewing the author of our featured read, Nicolle May.
And we are so excited to share with you the insight Nicolle shared with us on her writing and even her upcoming sequel that she's currently working on.
Exciting. So, grab your mug and let's get into it.
Boop, boop. Okay, do we start the questions? Oh, I'm so excited to hear your answers.
How long do you have allotted for this? Because I'm ADHD. I will talk until it gets dark outside.
That is fun. It's already dark here.
That's true. I mean, I guess I'm on the west, so.
Okay, so I guess we'll start with, at what point did you know that you wanted to be an author?
This is a fun question. So, I actually, when I was younger, I would write in like a little notebook, and I started writing stories and stuff then. And I just actually the other day remembered that notebook, and I asked my mom to look for it. But so I've always been creating stories and daydreaming stories and writing notes and stuff. But I actually stopped reading stopped reading for like a good 12 years. Like I just didn't pleasure read at all for 12 years. And that was sometime in high school to 2 years ago.
That is very similar for me. I went a long period of not reading at all. And then I just picked it back up, like another one of those ADHD fixations, like the hobby fixations. I'm sure you are well aware of that.
Yeah, I am the same way, and which is kind of blowing me away because people are like, "This is your debut novel? Like, this doesn't look like a debut novel." And I'm just like, in my mind, I'm like, I literally just started reading again 2 years ago. 2 years ago, and I started reading with a book called Bow Before the Elf Queen by J.M. Curl.
Yes.
And Janie and I are really good friends. She's actually one of the authors that have helped me through this whole thing. But that to answer your question is when I was like starting to entertain the idea of why don't I write something myself? Literally one book. I read one book after 12 years of not reading a book, and I'm just like, I'm gonna write my own.
I
But
can do this.
same time, my best friend, and I'm not sure if this is a question later, I'll just quickly touch on it. My best friend was in a domestic violence marriage for years. She had been out of it for 6 years, thank God. And she was writing a biography. Come to find out, he could sue her for defamation because people knew who he is, right? So she had to give up her dream for writing her biography. And I was like, but I can. And so Alora in my book is actually I'm gonna cry. She's my best friend Annie. And a lot of the situations that Alora went through with Kane is stuff that my best friend went through. So when people are like, "Oh, this is so unrealistic," and I'm kind of like laughing because I'm like, "No, it's not.
It is.
It's not because it's based on a true person, a true story. There are some things that are a little different, but like." That's when I knew I wanted to be an author, or I should say a writer, because I never quite was like, oh, this is definitely being published, right? So even as I was writing the book, I like my friend would be like, you're an author. I'm like, I'm not an author, I'm a writer. I'm not an author until it's published. So that's when. So yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. I knew that that it was based on your friend. I had come across that information somewhere along the way. I don't know if you had spoke about it in maybe a story at some point,
I think it was probably when I was looking for alpha readers or beta readers, because the Google document had said, this is why I'm writing this story, because I wanted to give the readers that would be a part of my team a little insight into why I was writing that story.
Oh, I thought that was so amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're telling her story in a way that he can't come at her, which is great. Oh.
When did this story come to you and what inspired it? So you already said what inspired it, but
yeah. So when did it come to me? I always forget exactly what year it was. I'm pretty sure it was 2 years ago, so 2022 during the pandemic. Um, that was just when I started reading, like I said, Bow Before the Elf Queen, and then I wanted to kind of create my own story. So that was around April, I believe, is when I bought that book, started reading it. By May, I had the first chapter done. And then my best friend came over actually that day because we're big into we're couch potatoes for like an entire day. We'll come over and watch movies on the couch all day. We'll usually cuddle up and fall asleep on the couch. Like that's just who we are.
That's
and
amazing.
I like kind of looked at her and she's like, "You've been like weird all day." She's like, "What do you want to tell me?" And I'm like, "So you know how you can't write your own biography? I started writing a book for you." And she like, yeah, like I showed her the first chapter, which was horrendous because my writer's style definitely changed by the time I published. I mean, I can't even tell you how bad it was. It was bad, but she was so excited, and that's what helped me to keep going. So I guess I think I answered both questions there. I started in about May 2022, but I actually rewrote the whole thing again. So like technically I'm not saying that I started in May 2022. I'm saying I started much later because I scrapped like all of it and started over because I hated it. And that was the real book to me. And I think that was in October 2022 or something like that. So
Wow.
yeah.
Wow. So she must like love this. Like
Yeah.
the whole like character progression of Alora and
Yeah. And it's pretty cool. I'm not sure if this is a question later or not, but as she was reading, because she's my very first alpha reader, and then I got alpha readers in April of last year.
Mhm.
And as she's reading stuff that I had written, she would be like, "How did you know about the stairs?"
Oh.
Like she's like, "How did you know about the stairs?" And I'm like, I didn't. I just felt like that was supposed to be a part of the story. And she's like, "Stairs, like you don't even understand. Like there's things that I wrote into the story that were something that she actually never told me." So
I
like
just got like
for me, I
tingles.
know, I would get like goosebumps too, and I'd just be like, it must have been meant to be.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously there's stuff that I put in there that is not a part of her situation, like
Mhm.
like Kane makes Alora dress a certain way.
Yeah.
That wasn't a part of my friend's story, but that's something that I wanted to put in there that I felt like Kane would do, right?
Yeah.
I tried to stay true to who I thought these characters were because I don't know anything about my best friend's ex. So who I felt Kane was is I put that in there. But yeah, anyway, I'm going off on a tangent. But
That's
yeah,
okay.
things that she read, she's just like, "How did you know?" And it just went from there. And then she would tell me things, and like for example, Alora when she's in the Dawn space. Spoiler. When she's in Dawn space and she finally gets to confront Kane, even though he's not real, but she gets to confront him. I actually wrote that whole like, "I hate you, I'm letting you fucking go, like you have no power over me anymore." I wrote that with her and with not Alora in mind, but with my best friend in mind. And then I
Yeah.
sent that to her and I'm like, "What do you think?" And she's like, "I need to pin this on the wall because this is my exact thoughts." And she bawls every time she reads it. And so yeah, because there is a section in there. Oh my gosh, I love my editor. Like, oh, my editor is amazing. And she just asked me the question. She's like, "Do we want to thank Kane? Because as a abuse victim, do you think she would thank Kane?" And I'm like, "Well, my best friend wanted to keep that in there, so I kept that in there for her. Because thank you for all the crap you put me through, because I would not be who I am right now without it." So even though fuck you, kind of a deal, but yeah.
Yeah, like
Too much.
you know that the strength, like she had the strength all along, but it's Kane that had, brought it out in her. It's the environment that she had to, yeah,
It had to happen for her to be who she is.
yeah,
And like with things that I've been through too, like there's things that had to happen for me
yeah,
to even be able to write stuff in
yes,
here. Like I'm not gonna say a whole bunch about what happened to me, but like to write Garrick's story, things had to happen to me so I would understand Garrick, if that makes any sense.
Yep.
Right? Like they had to happen. Those things and I wouldn't take them back. And Laura wouldn't take them back either because she wouldn't be who she is right now without Kane.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, for sure. Beautiful. So I know like we touched on this at the start, but like what hurdles did you have to overcome with your writing when it comes to having ADHD? Because we all know it's a blessing and a curse.
Being ADHD, it's like the best. Actually, it is. I'm not going to complain about being ADHD because a lot of my readers have mentioned how immersive and how they can see themselves in this book and they can actually visualize like the meadow, for example, with all the flowers and how bright everything is and beautiful and luminescent and like auroras and stuff. I believe, and I have looked into this, that ADHD people wildly, vividly see things when we read. Like I know people, they're like, you actually see faces and you hear people like different tones and like you can hear people talking when you read. And like, you can't.
We've had this conversation before, me and Rebecca on the podcast, and I'm like that. Like, I don't see anything. It's just black. I know. And I get so sad when people talk about how they can visualize it like a movie. I'm like, I can't. I mean, I still like devour books. Like, I can still like, I still really enjoy reading books. But I don't get that visual like a movie like a lot of people get. And I'm jealous.
I get it. Every time that I think back to like a movie or a book that I read, now that I'm thinking back, like I'm like, man, did I watch that? Was that a movie or was that a book? But like, it's literally, I can visualize it so well.
Same.
Oh, and but with like you guys.
But with Masks and Shadows too, like I'll sit down and be like, I want to turn Netflix on and watch it. And I'm like, wait a minute, no, it's a book. I read it. I wrote this. But yeah, so again, tangent here. I was saying that there's nothing wrong with ADHD. I'm actually really, really happy for it because it's, as my alpha readers and beta readers have described it, as a superpower. Because I was able to write a better book that way. Because I see movies, like you said, it's a movie in my head. I see every single little thing down to the dirt on the road. But
amazing.
The bad part, which is your question, the bad part about ADHD, I get a little obsessive with scenes sometimes, and it's just like, you do not need to put that much information into this scene. Like, you just put an extra 200 words when you only needed 4. Like, why did you do that? But a really, really big obstacle of mine is I have the extremes of ADHD, and my extremes are hyperparalysis and hyperfixating. So hyperfixating, for those of you who are listening, is when your brain cannot convince you to stop doing the thing you're doing, no matter what. So a little graphic here, but if I have to pee, I might have to pee for 8 hours, literally, because I'm like, no, I have to finish what I'm writing. And I cannot convince my brain to let me get up, eat, go to the bathroom, take a drink of water, like nothing. So that's the extreme of hyperfixating. But they make damn good writing days. But the other the other extreme is hyperparalysis. And when I get hyperparalysis, it lasts for quite a long time. And again, for those of you that don't know what it is, hyperparalysis is you cannot convince your brain to do anything except sit, because your mind cannot determine what the next step is. Like something as simple as picking up something and throwing it into the garbage is really tough sometimes. So I'm actually right now in hyperparalysis, and it is driving me nuts because I'm trying to write book 2. I'm like crying every day because I'm like, just write the scene, because I have a sword fighting scene with Garrick right now in his perspective, and I just want to hash it out, and I just can't for the life of me. It's been over a week, and then I try and write something else, and I can't write anything else either. So,
oh my gosh.
I would.
So it's like an intense writer's block. Is that how you would?
I'm not calling it writer's block. To me, it's just like, because it's a whole bunch of things. Like, my entire upstairs right now is an absolute mess. It's been an absolute mess for like 2 weeks, and my brain, I can't convince it to go and pick up a dish off the counter. My poor husband. But like, I get in those, like, it's really, really hard to convince my brain to do certain things, and it makes me feel lazy and like panicky, and especially now that I'm writing book 2, I'm like, I have all these people that want book 2 so bad, and I'm putting so much pressure on myself that I think it's also putting me in hyper paralysis, because it's like I'm overwhelmed with a lot of things, and now I just got to get this next amazing book out, but no, you can't do anything. So I'd like to say that I overcame my ADHD while writing, but to be honest, it's like a roller coaster, right? You'll be really good for a while, and then nope, you're not good for a while. But it's like, I also have my friends behind me. Crescent City, sorry, don't make me cry over her. But
if you start crying, we're all gonna be crying.
Oh, I'm a crier. I tell you what, I am a crier. Like like I said, I'm not joking when I say I cry every day. I do right now. I'm going through some stuff, but it's fine. But I've got my friends, and my friends always, they're really uplifting, and they remind me that these things happen. I also get burnt out really easy. Like, so yeah, I did not overcome. I did not, but no. I know that it'll get better. I just have to constantly have those reminders and the people backing me up, telling me you're doing everything you can. Like, look at what all you've accomplished by yourself. 100%. Remember last year when you wanted to throw the book away and delete it all? Like, don't do it. So yeah, I hope that answered your question.
Oh yes. And too, on like the other hand too, you know that those hyperfixation days are going to come around again.
Yes, and like,
and you will make up for the paralysis days.
Yeah.
I know. Can I just find like a happy medium, please? Like, can it just be consistent, please?
Not allowed.
Nope, not allowed. Period.
Okay, let's see. So next one is, what did your schedule look like while you were writing What Lies Within Masks and Shadows, and how long did it take you to write it?
All right, so my schedule, so I actually was a direct sales consultant for a pretty big kitchen company. I don't know if you want me to name it, but as I was top 10% in Canada at that time. So it was more than a full-time job because I was pretty high rank. I had a huge, massive team behind me. So not only was I running my business, I was helping others run theirs. Plus, I'm a wife to a very busy farmer. Plus, I'm a worship leader at my church. Plus, I was trying to write a book. And so that was my schedule at the time. And hyperparalysis hit me hard to the point that I couldn't do any of them, period. Plus, I'm also a very creative person, and I was trying to put my creativity into my business. And that's just not what that kind of thing, what those people wanted. They wanted kitchen products. They didn't want the murder mystery parties that I was doing with kitchen
Oh my God, I want that.
Yeah, it was so much fun. But I mean, some people did, but it wasn't the norm. So I was trying to put creativity into my business because that's what I believe that's my purpose in life, is some sort of creativity, like, right? So I held up my book for those of you that don't know what I just did.
Keep forgetting.
I forget. Like, we're on video right now, but they only hear audio. But I knew I needed to stop something. I couldn't stop being a wife. I couldn't stop that. I went to college for music, so I didn't want to stop doing that, even though it was more volunteer based. And I definitely was not going to stop writing my book. That was not happening. So I did me and my husband, we talked about it, and we decided together that we would try me being a full-time writer, even though my income would be gone, like absolutely gone, because I don't get paid for music. We all know that writers don't get paid until their books are out, and then you still have to wait to get paid.
Yeah.
which is fun.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, that was my schedule at the time. So actually in February of 2023 is when I stopped my business after 7 really successful years. Like I even like earned all of the trips and got flown all over the place.
Gosh.
Like the farthest I was Jamaica, which was amazing. But so I gave all of that up so I could write my book and get it out. And thankfully we had like our savings and everything. So like I was able to do a little bit here and there. And then I found an amazing editor and oh my gosh, she's just magic, magic. But that was my schedule when I started. And then, then it took me, I'm pretty sure that I wrote that it took me 10.5 months to actually write it. Mind you, that was the rewrite. So that was when I decided to kind of scrap everything that I had already written and start over again and put new elements into it. I had a new writing style, all kinds of things. And so all together for writing only was 10.5 months. And then it took a couple more months. I'm trying to think. I think it was October of 2023 when I finished it. And then it went to the editor in October, and we were done with the edits in December. Like right after Christmas is when we finished. Fast. Oh my gosh, my editor is mind-blowingly amazing. Shout out to Ellie Race. I tell you what. She's got magic fingers and eyes and oh my gosh, her accent's so cool. She's in the UK too, but nice. It was so fun. Like just the way we worked together and our personalities and just like we were back and forth, like so the communication was so amazing and just I can't say enough good things about my editor. Like she is. If she ends up not editing for me anymore, I'm just gonna throw the whole book away because I don't want anybody.
It's not worth it.
Nobody else is not worth it. It's like I'm even like writing book 2, and I'm just like, can I send you my chapters because they need your fingers? But, yeah. So then so December to February 27th. I think that's when the published date was. Yeah. So it was done. I had my my ARC readers going through everything and finding all the spelling mistakes and little plot holes here and there that I didn't catch before and fixed some stuff. And then now the book's out. So wow. 10.5 months plus October to February. So
that is insane. That's so fast.
Yeah.
I also want to say this. I also didn't know the ending of book 1, where it would be. Because when I was writing, I was just writing. Now, there was actually supposed to be 2 more chapters in the book.
Oh.
But me and my editor decided to end it there. Sorry. But so we the reason it took me 10.5 months to write this book is because I already wrote like 15 chapters of book 2 before I realized. I'm like, I think I should like maybe stop because I was at like 220,000 words, and I'm like, you can't do a book 1 that's 220,000 words. I'm like, this book, this book's like 170,000 words, which is not like normal for a debut author at all. But you know what? I was like, I'm just gonna take a chance. Like, so actually, the ending of book 2 is what was supposed to be the ending of book 1. It just turns out I like to write a lot, apparently.
Wow.
Yeah, and I was saying that I like personally all of the books that I read are thick boys. Mm-hmm. This is what I want, so this is what I write. And I know I'm not as good as the person in question who I'm have in my hand, because she obviously can write that much without worrying about it. But to me, I'm just like, I always want more. Yeah. And I cannot write 140, 120,000 word book and feel satisfied. So I took a massive chance and wrote a thick book for my debut. And I am constantly hearing people say that the book needed to be that long. Give or take those, couple 1-star reviews that are like, yeah, this needed to be 400 pages shorter. Well, that's your opinion and you're entitled to it. But I wrote it because that's what I like. So That's what my readers are going to get.
And it's your book. You want to attract the audience that are good for your writing.
Yeah, that's the audience I'm writing to, is people like me.
It's funny because we've talked about that as well, Rebecca, how you're like, she's reading, I mean, we both are, but the ACOTAR series, and she's slow at it because she doesn't want it to end. Like, she keeps saying, like, I just want to spread it out more.
I know. I'm the same way. The same way. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that.
No, there's not.
Yeah, and I've had comments and reviews and stuff of people saying that it took them a week or more to read the book, not because it was a bad read, but because they didn't want it to end. And I think that is the greatest compliment ever, because I was the same way as you, Rebecca. I'm like, I'm holding Silver Flames in my hand because I know people hate Nesta, but I'm a Nesta.
Honestly, she's won me over as well.
Yeah, I'm a Nesta. So I'm so glad that her story was this long, because I'm gonna cry, but I did not want it to end either, because it's just I love Nesta. I could barely put the book down, but I had to, because I'm like, if I keep reading, it's gonna be over, and then what? So and I read that like 8 months ago or whatever, so it's just like I still think of it every single day. Yeah. Good books. You just don't want them to end. So when people tell me it took them a long time to read it, that's such a huge compliment to me.
Yeah, I love that so much. What is our next question? Oh, how did you celebrate when you finished your book? Like, what happened when you wrote that last?
Okay, so do you guys actually want to know what the very last line I wrote in the book was?
Yes.
Because I added scenes to the book after I thought the book was done. Like I said, when I had like 15 more chapters already written, but I actually wrote more afterwards. So it's actually spoilers. If you haven't read the book, please don't listen. I'm just trying to flip through it here. So the tavern scene before the inn. Mm-hmm. The very last line that I wrote in the book was chapter 36, and it was after she sees Cain again. Oh no, it was 37. I'm just trying to find it here. The very last line I wrote in the book before it went to the editor was, and embedded into the male's face. That's when Gark unalived many people in a hallway. So
that deserves an applause.
That was the very last line. You are going to have to remind me what the question was, because now I don't remember where I was going with that.
How did you celebrate when you finished your novel?
Okay, so that was hilarious, because that was the last line, and then I had to celebrate from that line. That's where I was going. After Gark literally shoves a sword into a male's face, and then I had to celebrate. Honestly, I didn't celebrate finishing writing the book. I just kind of went into like, now I gotta do all the other things to get it out there. So I didn't take a moment to celebrate until it actually was published.
Okay, so how did you celebrate that?
When I celebrated it being published, it was a weird day that I didn't spend on my phone at all, because I didn't want to know what was going on. Like, I felt sick. I'm like, it's finally out there. Like, it's done. Oh my gosh. And then that evening, I went out for sushi. So that's how I celebrated. Because I'm on a fitness journey. I've lost about 90 pounds. And my trainer was like, you can have sushi tonight. I'm like, thank God. So like, we went for sushi, my husband and I. But
that's amazing. Yeah, that is definitely a way that we would celebrate as well, sushi.
All right. So, next question. So we love how you give like chapter by chapter content guides for the readers if they choose not to go in blind. Did you find writing a tromance taxing for you, or did you have to take extra steps to protect your mental health while you're writing it?
Yeah, so this is a good question. I'm the kind of person that just give me all the trigger warnings. That is my checklist kind of person. Um, I love dark romance stuff, but without telling too much of my history, because I'm not sure if I want to share all of that. But my mind is very dark all the time, which apparently from the trauma that I went through is normal. Thank you to my therapist for making me feel normal. But we tend to go more towards the dark things because we can then control it if it's our decision, right? So writing a traumance was really easy for me because I've been through quite a bit of unmentionable things. And I wouldn't say it was taxing to me. It was actually, as I described it with my alpha readers and beta readers, it was actually kind of therapy for me because it's like I'm not holding it inside of me anymore. I was putting it on the page and getting it out. So, yeah, the terrible things that have happened in the book, I'm not writing them to shock my readers or hurt my readers or make my readers be like, wow, like you have a really dark mind. And that's kind of inappropriate. I'm writing it because it was part of my therapy to get it out, as well as helping my best friend. Right. So yeah, it wasn't necessarily taxing to me. There were weeks that I was just like, wow, that was really dark. I don't know if I should keep that in there. But honestly, I didn't take anything out that was dark. Everything that is in the book was originally there, and I did not remove anything because it needed to be there in my opinion. And also my alpha and beta readers agreed with me. Like, so yeah, I hope that answers your question. There were tough weeks for sure where I was just like, especially there's, I should say, please take the trigger warnings for book 2 seriously, because book 1 was Alora's story. Book 2 is heavily Garrick's story, as in there are flashbacks that are like, oof, I'm like, you know, when you get that like feeling, like I'm starting to get like really hot right now, like in my like achy and in my fingertips. That's a thing for me. My anxiety is in my fingertips, which is also in Laura's. That's why she's pulling on her fingertips every once in a while. Like I'm getting the anxiety right now because I'm like remembering when I did write this one scene, I was sick. Like I couldn't write for like 2 weeks because I was just like, I had to get out that part of Garrick's story, and I hated writing it, but it was like, it's his story. It needed to be there. So please pay attention to the trigger warnings for book 2, because it is a lot darker than book 1, because it's Garrick.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So it wasn't not necessarily taxing, it was more healing. Being able to,
Yes, it was definitely more healing for me because I got like, yeah, there's I always say that Alora is my best friend and Garrick is me. So there's stuff that's Garrick's past, that's my past, and so it was very healing to get stuff out there, out of my brain and my heart, and being able to write about it when I sometimes can't talk about it, or that I don't want to talk about anymore because it's so in the past. But like even with Garrick, these things he still carries with him, and it's like things like progress is not linear is a huge line in my book, because you can be doing great for like 3 years and then all of a sudden it's just like boom, you like the cologne of this guy that just passed you is the cologne of an abuser, right? So it's just like writing this stuff out was very healing for me, even though there were moments that were tough, but it was my therapy, my healing.
I love that so
I'm
much.
very different from when I started writing the book, for sure. I'm much better for it now.
That's awesome. Let me see. Oh, okay. So this is kind of like a 2-part question. What part of your book was the most fun to write, and what was the hardest to write? I know, like, we kind of like brush on these answers throughout, but
because we're ADHD and we can't stick to one track, you know. I will say the absolute most fun part of writing my story. Well, I guess there's 2. Like, there's a scene and then there's a theme. So the theme or a trope, whatever, I would say the banter between Garrick and Allura was my favorite thing to write. And I promise you, who is listening, I hate it when after things happen romantically, that banter just kind of doesn't happen anymore like it used to.
Oh, I hate
promise you, they do not stop. Like they will always be the bantering people that they are. Well, fairies, whatever. But that was one of my favorite parts, is just constantly how sassy she is and how baiting he is.
Yeah.
And it's just like he does things because he knows that she'll give it right back. I love that so much. Like just like when he first meets her, spoiler, when he first meets her in the tavern in the beginning of the book, like just how flippin' like,
oh my God. Yeah.
I just can't, like, I just love it from the start. They're sassy with each other. So that's one of my favorite parts.
I think like all of my highlights in your book is the like back and forth between Garrick and Allura. Like,
yeah,
every time that he calls her clever girl, I'm just like, oh, highlight that.
Oh yeah, I love it. Yeah, Garrick, he's. I love their banter, but I think then the other favorite part, and this is a scene, and again, this scene was not in the book until right before I sent it to my editor. So this was like brand new. My beta and alpha readers, or my alpha readers never read it, but my beta readers did. And it is the special cover on the hardcover underneath the character art. It's where sorry. It's where Garrick and Allura, he's flying her in the air with his smoke shadow wings. And just that entire scene just felt, oh my gosh, like I just melted because, you know, you see this strong, broody, I don't talk to people. I'm always kind of quiet. I do my own thing, you know, I only get soft for her, you know, kind of thing. Right.
Oh, my favorite.
We see Garrick have a moment where he lets his guard down while they're flying together, and like you can tell something's wrong, and we find out later why something was wrong. And he has a moment where Allura is just like brushing his neck and like giving him her warmth and the magic, like she has her sparks flying in the air around them with his smoke shadows, and they look like they're dancing together, their magic. And he says, I don't know what peace feels like, but I imagine it to be a lot like this. So that was my absolute favorite scene in the entire book to write. Like that, like anytime I think of my book, that is the first thing that pops up in my head. Yeah. So yeah, besides the banter and that, those are my favorite things for sure.
Oh, that's amazing.
My least favorite, actually, if I can be honest with you, my least favorite part was actually something that's in book 2 now, because it was originally going to be in book 1. That was a part of the extra 15 chapters that I wrote before I figured out that I wanted to end the book where I kind of ended it. Like I said, there were still 2 more chapters that I thought was going to be the ending, but I moved it back a bit. But I shouldn't say my least favorite. I should say the hardest. I think that's what you asked me, what the hardest part was. Yeah. In book 2, there is a flashback scene from Garrick's past that I had written while I was writing book 1. And that was the hardest because, like I said, I don't want to traumatize readers. I don't want to hurt my readers. Like, that's not the purpose of the trauma in the book. But it's something that needed to be in there to understand why Garrick is the way he is and why, like, he has problems that he's working through while he's being the selfless male he is. Everybody else is more important to him in his mind, right? It's like, my trauma, who cares about me? Like, everybody else needs taken care of. And you see a lot of that from his flashback that I wrote. That was the hardest part for me. I had to take like 2 weeks break after I wrote that particular chapter. So again, please take the trigger warning seriously in book 2, because it is a lot darker than book 1. I will say this, I will never write in detail sexual assault. So please know that it is fade to black stuff. Now I will write in detail gore, because that doesn't bother me, but I will never write a sexual assault scene out. Yeah. It'll always be fade to black. So that's a spoiler, I guess, that's what the scene is about. Gore and sexual assault flashback. So yeah. That was the hard part.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yep. If you could meet Elora and Garrick, what would you say to them?
I'm gonna cry, which is exactly what would happen if I saw Garrick, to be honest. I don't really know that I would say anything to Garrick. I would just give him a really big hug and just I know he's taller than me, so I'd like cry into his like chesticle area and just cry my eyes out. Because he makes me feel really, really safe. And I know he's not real, but like I needed Garrick while I was writing my book.
Yeah.
And I don't know what I would be able to say to him. I just know that I would probably cry for like an hour and he would be happy to hold me, even though he doesn't like to be touched.
I think he would understand what you can't say with your hug, I think. Yeah.
He would also be able to read it in my mind. So.
True.
Oh my gosh. It's a tough question, man. That's a really tough question. With Elora too, like I would probably tell her thank you for being strong and like for giving me courage, because before I wrote her story, like there are things that I needed to work on, and with writing her story, I got a lot stronger with certain things.
Yeah.
And like again, I know she's a fictional character, but I would also tell her thank you for being an inspiration, I guess. Maybe that's not the word, but like the amount of people I have in my DMs that are telling me like thank you for writing Elora's story because it's their story. And that they're getting representation, like domestic abuse victims that are finally getting their representation in books, right? And like I said, I know she's a fictional character, but I would tell her thank you for her story, for everything that she went through, because I know her decision was made for her because of Garrick coming in to tell Dara, right? But she was already working on getting out. She had already made the decision. She was working towards it. And if Garrick would not have come, she would have gotten out on her own. She would have.
100%, yeah.
Yeah, like there's no doubt about it for how strong she is at the beginning already. And then she just keeps getting stronger and stronger. Albeit it's kind of annoying sometimes, but that's just the way it is. We as women can get annoying. And we never can, stick to one straight line. Right? We're all over the place. But yeah, I would sit down and just, I would say thank you to her for being brave and strong and realizing her worth and getting her story out there, I think. Yeah.
Oh, amazing. Even I am crying a little. Just a little.
I would also tell Garrick that I love him and he's my book boyfriend.
I know you said, like, you kept saying that, like, they're fictional, but I mean, this is a podcast of readers. Fictional, they're all real in our heads and our hearts. So,
yeah. And kind of the fun part, I might have even told Garrick, I guess, that he's like my best friend, which is kind of weird. I don't know. But like, seriously, I went on a mini vacation over the US border and with my best friend, and it was 3 days of not being with my characters. And I was just like, literally, anytime something fun happened, all I wanted to do was text Garrick and tell him about it. Like Garrick, he was there for me. Like, that's why I said, like, I wouldn't be able to tell him much because, like, he would be able to feel how much he means to me. Like, yeah. So he's amazing. All the things.
I love that so much. Oh, okay. So what authors do you enjoy reading, and do you think they helped shape your voice?
Do not come for me. For those that do not like her. But I don't care. Again, I only started reading 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. And the authors that I love the most, besides the very first author that I read since my 12-year hiatus of reading, and that was Bow Before the Elf Queen by J.M. Curl. Mm-hmm. The very next book I started reading was A Court of Thorns and Roses. So when my bad reviews, which I have stopped reading, when my bad reviews are saying that it's heavily influenced by Sarah J. Maas, they are correct. Because, for one, I'm not a fast reader. It took me like 2-3 weeks to read Silver Flames with how big it is. I can't read fast. And especially when I first started reading again, I had to be in a very quiet room with gray noise, not white noise. Gray noise worked for me the best. But it was hard for me. So when those bad reviews are saying, I can see Sarah J. Maas all over this, yeah, you can. Because that's pretty much all I read after 12 years was Sarah J. Maas books. So, like, I didn't know anything else.
You pick up just about any fantasy since Sarah J. Maas, and you're going to find comparisons to Sarah J. Maas. She's been such an influence.
Original anymore either. Yeah. Every idea is already out there. It's just how do you make it yours? But that was another piece of reading advice that I learned. But yeah, so yes, and I will say I have not actually read Throne of Glass series. I'm actually afraid to because I don't want to be any more influenced right now while I'm reading. I'm not kidding. Like, the reason I market my book as Throne of Glass meets The Witcher and Once Upon a Time is because every single person that has read my book said it's like Throne of Glass, and I'm just taking their word for it.
Okay.
But so, yeah, the authors that I love and that I get influenced by and that I hope to God I meet one day because they, like, turned my world upside down when I started reading. Yeah, Sarah J. Maas, like I said, don't come for me if you don't like Sarah J. Maas. That's great. I love that for you.
We mentioned her like once per episode at least. So
okay, perfect. She is. I love her.
We've already weeded out the non-fans.
Perfect. So if you love Sarah J. Maas, you'll love my book. So, oh my gosh, Carissa Broadbent. My gosh. I still think about her Crowns of Noxia series, like, and I read them last January, like 2023.
I still haven't.
Oh my gosh, you have to. I love vampires so much. But she is like top of my food chain of books and authors. Like, oh my gosh, I can't get enough of her writing. Another one, if you love a shadow daddy, I mean, who doesn't really? I don't know if I'm saying her name right, and I'm sorry if I butcher it. And I believe she's either in the UK or Australia. But her name is Claire Sager. I might be saying it wrong. She wrote A Kiss of Iron and A Touch of Poison, and then Slaying the Shifter Prince. So it's those 3 books, and she's got a lot more, but I started reading her Kiss of Iron, and it's a shadow daddy named Bastion.
What a good name. Okay, it's definitely going on the TBR.
Her 3rd one comes out in June, and it could not come out fast enough because like I love when people have a shadow daddy, but they make a twist on it. Like, and she has a twist on hers, like Gark has a twist on his. Like, when I say like the Once Upon a Time meets The Witcher and that, like, you know, Regina, if you've ever watched the show, you know how Regina we'll use a Sarah J. Maas term. If you're not familiar with my term, Sarah J. Maas's term is winnowing. Yeah. My term is dawning. And I could get into why it's called dawning later, but when Gark uses his shadows, he dawns with his shadows, or he's like Regina, where she just like goes like this, and then her power just takes her away, or she just like snaps a finger and in her hand with her purple smoky stuff is what she wants. Well, that's my twist on my shadow daddy. He literally can do anything in the world as long as his shadows can like make it happen, right? Yeah. So, and then one more, and she is also J.M. Curl, Claire Sager, and L.J. Andrews these 3 authors have been helping me write my book. Like, they've been with me the entire way.
That's amazing.
And so, yeah. And so LJ, she does and I always say it wrong, and I'm not sure currently if I'm saying this right. I think hers is called the Broken Kingdom series.
Mm-hmm.
So or if her newest series is the Ever King and the Ever Queen. And then her Broken Kingdom series has 9 books in it, and I'm currently on number 5. Well, I'm trying to read them right now because they're so amazing, and I want the next part of this story, and like, they're just so good I can't put them down. But yeah, LJ Andrews is another one. So those are the ones at the top of my head, the authors that I love, and I continue to read their stuff the moment it comes out. I'm trying to catch up with LJ because, like I said, she has so many books in this series, and I just can't get enough. And I'm just trying to read them, and I'm just like, I want more and more. And right now, I'm reading her Shadow Daddy, so it's like really cool.
Amazing.
So yeah, it's cool. Yeah, those are my authors. Like, thank you so much for being authors, because without you, I probably wouldn't have got this far.
Well, they're definitely going on the TBR as well. Yeah.
Oh, they need to be on your TBR. If they're not, they need to be
added. Yup.
What is the most valuable piece of advice you've been given or can give about writing?
Yeah, this is a good question too. Write the book you want to read was really, really good advice for me. So I know not a lot of, that's the wrong word. I know that I shouldn't read my bad reviews, but I had read one that said it looked like I had a list of tropes that I was just like check marking off. And
why is that bad?
If I'm totally honest, I didn't even know what tropes were while I was writing. I'm not kidding. Like I've mentioned, it took me 12 years to read again.
That's
and then
fair.
I just started writing a book after the first book that I read after 12 years. I had no idea. Can I be honest with you? I don't even know what prose means. I had to ask one of my ARC readers when she gave me a review. ARC reader. ARC. That was in January, 2 months ago. I'm like, what the heck is a prose? And then she told me, I'm like, oh, that's cool. So when I got the advice to write the book you want to read, yeah, there might be, it looks like a checkmark of tropes because those are things I like. One horse, I love that crap.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm going to write the things I like, and if it looks like I'm going off of a trope list, that's because I like that stuff.
Yeah.
And it just naturally came out of me. Okay, so write the book you want to read. That was a big one. Another one was when you want to give up, just remember that your story is going to be somebody's favorite story. So don't stop writing somebody's favorite story. So I had to remind myself that a lot. Like when I wanted to give up, I can't give up on that person because this is going to be their favorite story.
I got goosebumps for that one. Yeah.
Yeah, like one day this is going to be somebody's favorite story. And apparently right now it's over like 300
I was going to say, you've got a lot of people who absolutely love this story.
Yeah. And the other really good piece of advice that I still have problems listening to is when you're drafting, don't edit.
Oh.
I can't help it. I'll write something and I'll have to go back and make it better. And tell me, or like the thing that I want to print out and put it on my board back here is it's not going to print tomorrow. That needs to be my big writing advice for this book because that I feel the pressure to write a really good book and then in my mind I'm just like, I gotta make this so good right now. And I'm like, you are drafting. It does not have to be good right now. That's the point of drafting.
Exactly.
So yeah, I that's the piece of advice I'm giving myself this time around is it's not going to print tomorrow. Chill.
Oh, I love that. So when you develop your characters, do you already know who they are before you begin writing, or do they develop as you go along?
This has to be one of my favorite questions because, to be honest, if I didn't know who my characters were, I wouldn't be able to write them. And for example, we meet this character at the very end, the very last chapter, we meet this character. And you don't know a lot about him yet. But I had such a hard time writing him because I didn't know who the heck he was. So one of my alpha readers at the time, we got on the phone together and we just started chatting, and we came up with, well, not we, but like she helped me voice out loud these ideas. And I guess I should say we, even like she helped me bounce ideas off of her. So yeah, we came up with the lore of this particular character. And I'm talking about, I think it was 58, because there's 59 chapters. So in 58, Garrick tells the story of Mercy and Destiny, who is also Alcia and Karimkar. And I didn't know who Karimkar was. All I know is that he was inspired by Rumpelstiltskin.
I love that.
I could not write that scene because, like I said, there are still 2 more chapters that were supposed to be in book 1, and they are with Karimkar and Garrick. And I could not write these scenes, period, because I didn't know who he was and what drove him and his history and stuff. And the moment I had his story, which we got part of his story in 58 when Garrick was telling Alora his story of Mercy becoming corrupted, and Alcia like kind of turning his back on his brother because that is not who they were made to be. As soon as I knew that, I knew everything. How to write him, how he walks, how he talks, his face, what he can do, like what he wants, what drives him, his purpose. Now, like all the details. So to me, I cannot write a character till I know everything pretty much about them. Everything. And it makes it a better story.
Oh,
like
yeah.
Even though you might not know all these details, like for example, like Jade, I know everything about Jade. You only got her part of her story in the forest with Alora. I know her entire story. That probably the next book after book 2 that I'm writing is Jade's novella. Or novella. I'm not sure how you say that word, but like, yeah, spoiler. I'm writing Jade's book.
That's amazing.
I have to because I know her. Yeah, so I cannot move on with the character. Even like Draven or Damon, there's 2 very, very small characters that are just kind of mentioned. I know everything about them too. To me, it just like maybe you don't feel that when you're reading, like that you really know them, but because I know them, I feel like I can write them better. Like even though Damon doesn't really have a lot of words, Draven doesn't really have a lot of words, but I know, like even Kala, I know Kala's her backstory. She's the rose gold haired female that gave Alora clothing and gave Garrick a gift on his birthday, and was seen sitting with Aiden at one point. So yeah, I know I have to know who they are, what drives them, their backgrounds, especially the main characters, because they wouldn't, like, how can you write a main character if you don't know anything about them, right? Or the secondary characters. Like, I even know everything about Eldacar, which we're going to get more of Eldacar's story in book 2. We're going to get more of Jade's story in book 2. Like, yeah, I have to, like, because then I feel connected to them and I feel like I can write a better story. And it also, their personalities are all different, right? And if I didn't know what drove them and I didn't know their personalities, I couldn't write them that you would, like, you'd be reading one line and you'd be like, wait, who's talking? No, I want when there's dialogue, you are gonna know who's speaking just by how they're speaking. Like Jade swears a lot. Garrick, I don't know if anybody caught this, but Garrick, because he's a royal, they kind of speak a little bit more elegantly. So he uses more elegant words than, like, let's say Aiden would, you know, and Aiden would say need and Garrick would say require, right? Like when I'm writing, I pay attention to that. Also, what I'm not sure if anybody noticed, but Garrick doesn't speak with, I think it's contractions.
Oh.
You will rarely see Garrick say can't, won't, wouldn't. You'll see him say cannot, would not. And that's just a part of his character because he is royalty and they speak more elegantly, that like saying can't is more of a shortcut. Yeah. Right? So like there are moments as the author that I'm like, well, writing would not or do not sounds really weird here. For my reader's sake, Garrick will say don't here. So that you'll see like don't once or twice, 3 times in the book. But for the most part, Garrick does not speak with contractions. So it's just something else, like that extra little piece of his character that I put into the story that you might see. Yeah. That was a long answer to a simple question.
No, I love that you're going into detail because that's what gives us content.
Yes. So, looking back at the first draft, what was the biggest change that was made?
Writing style. It's so bad. It was so bad, and I can't even tell you what it was either. Dear. Like, because it was so long ago, I just know that, like, well, for one, I hate it when you open up a book and every single first word of the next paragraph is the same word as the previous paragraph.
Yeah.
So that is a huge thing I pay attention to when I'm writing is what the heck did the last paragraph word start with? If it was a she, I'm not doing she again. Like I figure something else out. The same with my sentences in the paragraph itself. If I have 2 she's in a row, it's not happening. I'm changing it. Like I try to make sure that the start of every single paragraph is different from the last start. So that was a definite change from the first draft because a lot of it was she did this and then she did that and then he and then she again, and I'm like, no, we need better sentence starters than this. Like no. Another big thing is that I like you guys don't think I talk a lot, right? Like I'm very quiet. I don't like talk about no. Very short book, you know. I had a problem with over describing things, which I still have a problem with, but it was a lot worse. Like, you think my descriptive words, like I put like 1 or 2, like sometimes? No, it was like 4 or 5.
This is where, like, for readers like me who don't visualize it, like you guys, like I really appreciate the extra detail because then that is what paints that picture for me. So give me all the descriptions.
No, I agree. Like I don't like to call out my bad reviewers, but like one person was like, she had like 8 descriptive words in this paragraph, and I'm just like, so like what's wrong with that? Like I want to let you know what this looks like. Like I understand, like even my husband, like I have character art that May John Duty on Instagram she did for me. Like she did the character art underneath. And my husband, he's like, I don't want to know what the characters look like. I want to make up my own, like, in my head. And I'm like, oh, I want to know what they look like. What does the author think they look like? So I'm not sorry that I will add 8 descriptive words to a paragraph because I want you to know what I see.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm glad that you said that. You're a person that needs that. So I'm glad to know that. Like, yeah. And besides, they're not my audience that I'm writing for anyway, right? Like that's the other big piece of writing advice. You write for your audience, right? So yeah, that is the biggest differences that I can remember from the first draft to the 1782nd one that got printed.
Okay, if you could be a character in one of your favorite books, who would you be, and why is it Nesta? Now that I know that you've said that.
Say Nesta! I love you for that. So it would probably be the bone carver. No. It would probably be Nesta for one. Like, yeah. Oh, I could say so many things about Nesta, but I was a Nesta. I was. And I love how strong she made herself, like physically too, like her training. That's what I'm doing. Like I realized about a year, well, a little over a year and a half now, I guess, that my health was really bad. So I started going to the gym and eating right. And I've lost 90 pounds so far. And I can do so many things so many things. Like, I can climb a freaking mountain now. I've done that. We have this little place called Waterton, and I call it the Butt Blaster 9000, that you have to climb up, and I can do that now. When you wouldn't have caught me dead even going to Waterton before. And Nesta, she literally climbed a mountain too 1 year. Like, she would have never been able to do that before. She was able to, like, her wine addiction, well, she was kind of like forced out of that one. But like, just all the things that she went through, and then like, oh, I'm gonna cry. Finding real friends.
Yes.
I didn't have real friends for a really, really long time until I started reading books.
Yeah.
And my best friend and I have only known each other since 2021.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and we feel like we're each other's soulmates.
Yeah.
Best friends. Like,
sweet. Oh, I love that so much.
And Nesta met her best friend soulmates, right? So I would be Nesta, and it's not just because of Cassian, but I mean, that's also a really good point.
Oh, another Cassian girly.
I'm a Cassian girl. I thought I was a Rhys girl, but when Cassian came into the picture, like, don't get me wrong, I love Rhys. I love everything he did for Feyre. But oh my gosh, how patient that man, Cassian, male, with Nesta, and he never gave up. And just like what he told her, like if she needed to be quiet for like a week, just as long as he talked to her or she talked to him at the end of it.
Yeah.
Just,
yeah, I know.
Nesta. I want Cassian. Yeah, I would be Nesta. In case you didn't know that. All the things. Plus, she also has a house that loves her too and will do anything for her now. Honestly, like, I would like to be in the house wind, because they could probably clean for me too, you know?
Yep, I could use that.
Plus, I wouldn't mind looking at Azriel every once in a while. And he visits a lot.
Has writing and publishing a book changed the way you see yourself?
That's a definite yes, for sure. There's so many things I could say, but yeah, just I've gotten a lot stronger. I've gotten, I'd say, a bigger backbone now with my writing. I had thought at first that reading bad reviews would really wound me, but like I'm kind of in the mood now that if I read a bad review, I can just be like, that's your opinion, and I'm glad you have an opinion and you shared it, but it's not my opinion. And honestly, I read it and it's done. Like, cool. It took my rating down a little bit, which is kind of sad, but like, yeah, I'm able to move on a lot easier. Good. Which is really interesting. Yeah, and before I would probably dwell on stuff like that for a really long time, but I'm very surprised with myself, and I guess proud of myself that reading a bad review, because I read some bad reviews yesterday, and I don't know why I do it. Like, why do I do it? But I do, and it didn't bug me. But yeah, I would say there are quite a few things that I'm better for now from writing, and that would probably be one of them. Just I'm a lot stronger now.
That's amazing.
A lot stronger. And I think it's because of the people that I have met since I started writing it, and like my alpha readers and my beta readers, like now the ARC readers, and now the readers in general. Like, yeah. I am a completely different person. Completely different now. Way better than I used to be.
Well, just like your characters in your story, you also have character progression.
That's very true. Mm-hmm. Character development.
Yep. Who has been the biggest supporter of your writing? That might be a difficult one.
Actually, that one's really easy. That would be my best friend. Yeah. 100%. Because like we like to send each other podcasts, as in we will talk to each other on voice message on Facebook Messenger. And when I say podcasts, I'm not joking. When Facebook allowed us to, because it just recently changed, when it allowed us to, we would literally send each other the limit, which was 30 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
I'm not kidding. That's because she has a job. So like we can't call each other all the time. So like while I would be working out or like running outside or like doing whatever, like meal prepping, I'll just turn my Facebook Messenger on and I'll just talk to her like she's in the room. And she does the same thing with me. And then sometimes when I'm driving, I'll do the same thing, or she'll do the same thing. Like we'll meet each other at the gym, which is hilarious because it takes me a half an hour to get there. It takes her 12 minutes. And we'll be sending each other a voice message as we're driving instead of talking on the phone. And then we listen to it later. But I'm saying all this to say that I would send her like, hey, remind me to write this down later because I'm driving right now, but here's a story idea. Oh. And then she would send me one back and be like, oh my gosh, it's so amazing. Like yeah, she is the biggest supporter, my best friend. Like
she's your hype girl.
She's my hype girl. Like, oh my gosh, honestly, I would not have started writing this book without her because, like I said, Alora's story is her story.
Yep.
So 100% my best friend is my biggest supporter.
Shout out.
What book are you currently reading?
Let me pull up my Kindle because it's a book by L.J. Andrews, but I can never remember the names of these books. This one is A Game of Hate and Lies. So it's book 5 of her Broken Kingdom series. So technically, so it's split up into 2 trilogies, 1 duology, and 1 standalone. So there's 9 altogether, and there's 4 different kingdoms. So I believe it was the Eastern Kingdom is the first trilogy, and I think this is the Northern Kingdom. So they're characters that were in the first trilogy, but now we get their story.
Oh, I love that.
So now I'm reading the second trilogy, but the second book in that trilogy, so book 5. Yeah, okay. That's what I'm reading. Yeah, and I jump around, like I have a couple different books I'm reading at a time. So yeah, cover your eyes. But I just finished another series. It's called the Game series, and that one is by Cara D. So I just finished that 13 long book series like last week.
Wow.
Yeah, but they're quite short. They're very short books because it's not fantasy. So they're like fantasy. We get more word count because it's fantasy. This is more real life. And to be honest, I don't really like reading real life reality. I want to get out of reality to things that can't happen in real life because real life is boring. But this book series, the Game series, is really, really good.
Oh, okay. So this is if you want to, give us something. But would you share something about yourself that your readers don't know yet? Or I guess your fan base in general doesn't know yet.
I ride horses.
Oh.
I love riding horses. I am a huge street bike fan. Like, I want one so bad. So bad. I even texted my husband today and I told him that I'm selling my SUV. I'm getting a street bike.
Oh my God.
I'm not, but I mean, yeah, I'm a massive street bike fan. What else? I'm not from Canada. Mm-hmm. I'm from Pennsylvania. That's why if you're in my reader group on Facebook, Nicolle May's Broken Hearts, I say y'all a lot. What else? I have taken self-defense classes. So when there's self-defense in when Alora is with Fallon for the first time, that's actually stuff I went to a self-defense class so I could actually write it better in the book.
Oh, nice. So that was after you started writing, not before you started.
Yeah, it was after I started writing. So I took a self-defense class with my best friend so I could write it better.
That's commitment.
Yeah, like right now I'm writing a sword fighting scene too, and I'm like, I just need to go get a sword fighting class because this is really hard for me. I'm like watching YouTube videos and reading stuff, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to start using words. He parried, and that's good enough for me. Like, how realistic do I need to make this? Like, why I'm stressing for no reason. Yeah. I went to Bible college for music.
Okay.
So I went to school for 4 years for music. and I don't have I do have a degree. I double majored, but I don't get paid for it. So that's fine. I volunteer instead. I was diagnosed with ADHD in preschool.
Oh, wow.
So I've had it since I was little. So I guess for me, it's a good thing that I didn't have to learn in my adult years. I learned when I was young, so I had literally dealt with it my whole life.
You didn't have to
Yeah.
like break away from the masking.
No,
That's
but it was
big.
really tough for me. Like, yeah, I went through so many different medications because like there were different medications that turned me into a zombie, my parents told me.
Yeah.
So I went through so many different medications and stuff, and I had a really tough time in school. I was a C student because I couldn't pay attention even with medication. It just, yeah, like the only thing that worked for me was anything creative I excelled in. I got A pluses in. So like, yeah, I'm when I actually moved to Canada, here's a thing that you might not know about me. I was a TV producer.
Oh.
Yeah, so I actually created like my own shows and stuff at a TV station. One of them was a music show, which was really cool. And then I was a news producer. So I was the person that did the whole news show. So I would get all of the footage and the B-roll, and I'd get all of the like the newscast and everything. Like everything would be sent to me, and then I had to put it all together in an hour-long show. And I had to do that every day by a certain time, or else we were, shit out of luck because it had to be on air.
Yeah.
Right. So like, yeah, I was a graphic designer too. Like I'm a very, very creative person. So that is something that maybe not a lot of people know about. I love doing jewelry. I can't draw worth a damn. Like I have no skills that way, but if it's digital creation, I am like, wow, like not to like stroke my own ego or anything, but like, yeah, digital creation is where I excelled.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So,
wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. You've done like everything.
Yeah. Everything. Yeah. I feel like I've done everything. That's part of my this is completely off topic. I don't know why it popped in my head, but like I've been through so much trauma that my friend was like, you've just been polished a lot. And I like looked up at the sky. I was like, God, I think I'm polished enough. Like, I have done everything. That's what you said that made me think of that.
I don't know why, but I just had like the visual of my daughter's rock tumbler and how many times you have to put the grit in the tumbler.
That's me. That's me.
Oh my God.
I've been polished enough.
You're so shiny.
Hey.
Oh God.
Okay, final question. We know you're writing book 2 for us of the Promises of the Marked series. Can you share anything with us about this book? No spoilers.
How long do you have? I could talk all day. What can I share? Yeah, we still get a lot of the POV from Alora. But we get Garrick's POV quite a bit too. Yeah, I did mention this book is going to be a lot darker because we'll get a lot of Garrick's story. Another thing I want readers to remember as they're reading book 2 is the line, progress is not linear. I don't want my readers coming into book 2 thinking that Alora is healed from her situation.
Right.
She's not. Like, progress is not linear. Though she had gotten very far by the end of book 2, she still will have her moments too. And like I said, like it's been 12 years since something traumatic has happened to me, and I still have my moments. So I don't want my readers going into it being like, oh yeah, Alora's not going to have any issues. We're not going to see Kane ever again.
Yeah.
She's not going to have issues with something that Kane did to her. No, she still has things to work on. So that's something for book 2. I do want to say that this is a series and that there will be more than 2 books for sure. So don't expect the story to end in book 2, as it's not. I've also been called the cliffhanger queen. That's because a lot of the chapters, specifically, a lot of the chapters end on cliffhangers, and then you just want to go to the next chapter and keep reading, right? So just be aware that I have been called the cliffhanger queen. I'm not going to say anything about the ending.
You're just leaning into that? Just a little?
I don't even know what I'm talking about, to be honest. Yeah, it's gonna be a really great and beautiful and lovely. Yeah, just prepare yourself for book 2, because it's.
Oh dear.
I am trying to remind myself as I'm writing, because, like I said, it is a traumance, so you need to expect there's gonna be trauma. Actually, one of the questions that I give my alpha readers, because they read 5 chapters a week as I'm writing. I'm currently, I think I said 35 chapters done. And if it's the same amount of words as book 1 was, then I am 3/4 of the way done. Oh, I was telling my alpha readers that I have to keep reminding myself to put really good, happy moments in there, because you need that stuff.
You need a little good with the bad.
I'm so good with the bad. I'm telling you what, they're the easiest chapters for me to write. But and then they're reading, they're like, what are you talking about? They're like, yeah, there's trauma in this book, because it's a traumance. Like, if you go into it thinking it's sunshine and rainbows, then clearly, for one, you didn't read the trigger warnings and you didn't see that it's called a traumance. So I don't know what you were expecting, but yeah, they're like, we don't know what you're talking about, because you do put those moments in. And besides, if you have read book 1, you know that Aiden is back, and Aiden is my ADHD golden retriever side. So he is really in book 2, because he is needed. Like, he is needed. In fact, the one of the most recent things, and I don't think this is a spoiler, I just think it's hilarious. One of the most recent things that I wrote with Aiden is he's laying on the floor in a room with Garrick and Fallon. Garrick and Fallon are looking out a window. Aiden is literally laying on the floor, like, pretending he's, like, half dead. He's not. He's just overly dramatic. And he, like, says something about, I think a wretched pixie is playing target practice in my head.
Oh my God.
And then he's like, I want to peel off its wings and throw it in the sea. And then Garrick walks over with a glass and gives him water and tells him to drink. And then Aiden takes a drink, and he like goes, "Ugh, what is that? It's disgusting." And Fallon's like, "The locals call it water."
Oh my God.
It's just like, Aiden's needed. He is the comic relief the entire time in the book. Like, anytime Aiden's talking, you should know that it's not anything serious. He is just, I mean, he has his purpose, because like, every character has their purpose for sure, but his purpose is definitely the comic relief in such a heavy traumance for sure. So yeah. Those are some things for book 2, but like, don't worry, I'm putting lots of good moments in it too. It's just as I'm in my dark and twisty place in my personal life, like, it feels like anytime I write that, it feels like I'm writing trauma, but then my alpha readers read it and they're like, no, they're like, you're fine. They're like, and we know it's a trauma, and so if there's trauma in it, shocker.
Yeah, really.
You know, like, yeah. So book 2, yeah, and I'm kind of toying with the idea of putting in a dictionary or whatever it's called somewhere in the book. So, like, because we know that book 1 it didn't, like, Garrick, Laura, especially Garrick, was not ready to have spicy time.
Yeah.
Right? He was not ready for sex. Period. I will promise my readers that book 2 is spicy. Their actual moment isn't till not the end, but like, I'm 3/4 the way writing, and though they have had spicy scenes, their actual sex scene has not been written yet, but it's coming up for me to write soon. And I know I said I have 35 chapters written. That does not mean that it's going to stay 35 chapters, because my editor splits chapters for me, because I get to 7,000 words and I'm like, I need to split this chapter at one point. Like, my goodness. So, but yes, book 2 has had a lot of really good, spicy moments already in it. But they're building up to the big moment because the characters need the build up.
For obvious reasons,
Yeah, they're not just like, Garrick's just not going to be like, all right, I'm dropping my pants and I'm ready for this. Like, let's go. No. Mm-mm. In fact, the first few times isn't like that at all. It's all focused on her. So, and then, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if you can tell who my favorite character is in the book. It's Garrick. I love Garrick. Like, even though most of the perspective is from Alora, like, I love writing anything to do with Garrick. So when he gets his moment, I'm gonna like cry and scream and be just so happy for him. So I don't know if that was too much information, if I ruined anything for book 2, but yeah, I already have the cover done for book 2, but I'm not going to release that yet. My alpha readers got to see it. Probably my street team will get to see it too a lot earlier, but yeah.
Do you have an idea of how many books you want the series to be?
There's for sure 4 in my mind that I already have plotted out completely, and I have scenes already like written, like the idea for the scenes.
Okay.
There possibly be more. To be honest, like, I like the idea of a Throne of Glass kind of series with how many books there are.
Yeah.
I love, like I said, in case you couldn't tell from how thick my book is, I don't like things to end. So I don't really I don't see an ending right now.
Yeah.
I see possibilities, but there's for sure 4 books that I have completely plotted out. There is a 5th one that, like, I have an idea of, but it's not plotted out yet. Yeah, but I will say this, and I don't think it's a secret, but I plan on doing character novellas, but of their past.
Yeah.
So, like, any character novella that I do is going to be their past. So I really want Jade's story out before book 3. That's really important to me. So I have enough idea of her background to be able to write that book. In fact, I was like, maybe I should stop writing book 2 to put hers out before book 2 to try and do a rapid release, but I'm not sure if I want my readers to wait that long for book 2. So I'm trying to have an idea of what to do there. But yeah, I know what Thalin's would be about. I don't know Eldakar's yet, because I do know Eldakar's background. I just don't know what his would be about. I know Aiden's, because we did learn in book 1 that Aiden and Jade escaped on Aiden's ship. So I know Aiden's book would be all about adventure and finding things, and I almost just gave a spoiler as I was talking for book 2. Wow, I'm really impressed with myself that I didn't say the thing I was going to say. But yeah, Aiden likes to collect things that you'll find in book 2. So his book would be a lot about the things he's collected. I kind of see Aiden as Jack Sparrow, Jaskier from The Witcher, a little bit of Captain Hook from Once Upon a Time, and a golden retriever.
Yeah.
So Aiden's ship is like the not Neverland, but Aiden's ship is like Captain Hook's ship. Like, you can go anywhere on this ship. Well, I guess you need a magic bean in Once Upon a Time, but like Aiden's ship can like go through all these realms. So I think it would be really, really cool to write Aiden's story too. But then I also kind of want to write Garrick and Alora's. But the thing is, with Alora's would be a lot of domestic violence. So I don't know when I'll write that one, because it won't be a happy book.
Yeah.
Garrick's also, Garrick would be more of probably his Savage Prince years, which we learn what that means in book 2. But like also his would be very villainous. It would pretty much be just a flat out villain book, and I don't know if you would hate Garrick because of it, because he had a very wicked past.
Yeah.
That we learned about in book 2. Yeah. But I also wanted to write a complete villain book. So like with Magnellus, High King Magnellus, Snake Bitch. I almost said her name. With Malik and like Brennis and all the bad people. I thought it'd be cool to have a book about them too. And I was toying with the idea of writing a book about the Celestials, which we'll learn more about that in book 2. The creators of Elysian. So
amazing.
Yeah. So I've got plans. I don't have plans to stop writing anytime soon, that's for sure. I just hope that I can get out of the ADHD hyper paralysis. That way I can write faster and get books to my editor faster so I can get more books out to my readers faster. Yeah, so I was accepted into a book con, so I'm really hoping that my book 2 will be out before the book con in February, so that'll be cool.
Yeah, I seen that you posted that on Facebook, and that is incredible. That's so exciting.
Yeah, I can't believe I got into it. So I'm still like crossing my fingers for a Polycon. Like I really want a Polycon, but I don't know. I'm probably way too new for a Polycon, but we'll see.
The future. That's amazing. Oh, I'm so excited for you.
I will say this, if you're thinking about rereading the book, it's a great idea because I wrote for the reread, so you'll catch a lot of things. Knowing the things you know now, you'll catch a lot of things in book 1 that you wouldn't have caught unless you reread the book. So I highly encourage a reread to catch all the things.
I will reread when I get the physical. I want that hardcover so bad.
Beautiful.
The jacket is just,
my goodness. Well, thank you for being our first author interview.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for asking me. This was so cool. I had a lot of fun.
Oh,
me too.
That makes me feel so warm and cozy inside.
Same.
Well, hopefully we can get you back again when you've got book 2 out.
Yeah, I can't wait. It's going to be so good. I'm so excited for book 2.
Yeah.
All right, ladies. Well, I'm going to pop off then, and I hope you both have a good night.
Oh, you too. Thank you for coming.
It was nice meeting you.
See you later.
Bye.